Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we are here with episode 508 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for September 16th, 2018. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Apple wasn't completely honest in their presentation, Nintendo isn't completely in sync with their customers, and Netflix wants to recommend a complete solution for producers. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on any of our live stream platforms, including livestream.com, Periscope, Twitch, Mixer, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, maybe Google+, YouTube, on any of the podcatchers, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the Podcast Play app in the Windows Store, with a myriad of other podcatchers, or of course on our apps, PLUGHITZlive.com/apps. Thank you for making us a part of your day. There are two ways of doing that. Like I said, this here is F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, the flagship show on the PLUGHITZ Live family of content. One way to join us is live on Sunday nights at about 9 p.m. Eastern. We are aware that we were a little late this evening. By joining us live, one of the things you can do is you can chat with us in the studio and give us your feedback on the topics as we talk about them. Avram and I love to hear what people have to say about what we're talking about, especially as we're talking about it. Or you can always subscribe, and subscriptions are always free. And you can subscribe to this and all of our other shows by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. And there you'll see F5 Live, the Pilch Point, our special events feed, first looks, and a number of others as well. With that, Avram, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Not too bad. Just a lot going on.
Sure.
But exciting times. You know, we've got as we start to enter the sort of the final stretch for Q3, companies are rushing to get their products out. We know that the new NVIDIA cards are due out this week, and we know that, I mean, at least they're supposed to be out this week.
Sure.
And we know that Intel's new process. Intel probably has some new processors coming because there've been a lot of leaks about them. So,
Microsoft's got an event in 2 weeks.
Yes. Well, that may have to do with new Windows, but
it could, but it could also have to do with new Surface hardware. This is about the time we usually hear about it.
Well, that's a good point.
And all of the Surface laptops are sold out on their website.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I mean, the Surface laptop is way old, so if they want to keep it fresh, they better do something.
Yeah, I think it was 2 collisions ago they announced it while we were on the air. So yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, there are no. I mean, and then of course the Surface Pros are also, last generation hardware.
Yeah. So who knows what they'll have, but yeah, it's that time of year. Everybody wants to show off some exciting new hardware in time for the holidays. Make sure it's out in the wild, which means that for you and I, it's review time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good for us, right? And I hope a lot of it has bugs because if everything worked as advertised, no one would need to read tech articles.
Indeed. That's for sure. So, and there will always be problems, and we're going to talk about some of that here in just a minute. We do want to apologize. Like I said, we're running a little late this evening. A myriad of oddities today. We've had no consistent internet in the studio for about a week and a half, which is part of why we weren't on the air last week, and just there's been bizarreness, and but it looks like everything's ready, and I think Avram and I are ready to talk about some news.
Yes.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a Surface Pro currently at $200 savings, possibly because of what's going to happen in 2 weeks, you're looking for a new Xbox One, either the S or the X, both available, or you're looking for something unrelated, maybe a VR or mixed reality headset. Maybe you're looking for some cool new apps for your phone. You're looking to buy ebooks to use on your tablet or whatever. All of that is available right now by going to f5live.tv/Microsoft. I want to apologize if the volumes on music are off tonight. I've made a change in here, and I'm not quite sure I understand the change I made. So with that, speaking of Microsoft, let's talk about Apple. Obviously, everybody knows that this week, Apple is their annual Look What the iPhone Still Does event. And this year, interestingly, at the iPhone release event, the Apple Watch stole the show, mainly because there is nothing exciting about the iPhone that could have stolen the show, because it's a bigger version of last year's. In fact, it is so close to exactly what they had last year that they've actually discontinued the X but kept the 7. So that's how similar the X and the XS are. They literally discontinued the X but left the 7 in the lineup. So, some interesting stuff, particularly, like I said, around the watch. The new watch has a bigger screen. Interestingly, the same kind of questionable battery life, what they call all day, but is only 18 hours. If you want to track your sleep, you can't also charge it. Anyway, but by going to a bigger screen, a brighter screen, a more colorful screen, they did not lose battery life, which I think is probably an...
Wait a second. How do we know that?
According to their numbers.
According to their numbers.
Right. 18 hours to 18 hours. Obviously, once they're out in the wild, I imagine we'll hear some battery tests from Tom's guide to be able to confirm, but according to what they said last year, they said 18 hours. This year, they said 18 hours, which means in their tests, they didn't lose anything, which is at least better than them saying, well, bigger screen, we only lost an hour. That's no good. But they also didn't say, we've got better battery life this year. So, consistent. Unfortunately, some of the things that they said on stage were a little misleading. And I think there hasn't been enough attention paid to that. And so I think it's important to cover a little bit of that. The first thing that they said was that they mentioned the FDA as far as the Apple Watch was concerned, and in particular the ECG feature, which is the first direct-to-consumer ECG device. It's not the first consumerable ECG device, but it is the first one to have it built in that goes to consumers. When they mentioned on stage that the FDA had cleared it, the room went nuts. Everybody cheered. As it turns out, what the FDA said was, we don't care. There's actually a certification in the FDA. It's called the de novo classification. That basically means that the FDA said, we don't care. So low risk to the world, we're not even going to look at it. So it was not FDA approved, as the room and most of the internet believed. The FDA literally said, don't care. And that's important because for it to be de novo certified, classified, it means that nothing that Apple is doing is directly medical. and the device itself has a very low risk of causing problems to people who are using it. It doesn't mean that the information is necessarily accurate, just that the device itself is not likely harmful. However, there is apparently a scenario in which the device itself can be harmful, and it has something to do with if you're under 22 or something like that, and you've had a heart problem, the device could be dangerous, and apparently it says that.
How I don't understand. How can measuring your heart rate be dangerous?
I have no idea.
Or is the danger that you'll take that information seriously, and you might not act to prevent? Just to you might think that you're fine, but it actually, because it tells you you're fine, but you're actually sick.
So there's two parts to the answer to that question. First, the software will not tell you whether or not it believes you to be fine. And that is the reason they were able to get this classification. If it made predictions about whether or not it believed you to be fine, because it is the first direct-to-consumer ECG, it would have had to have been FDA approved, which would have delayed it 2 to 3 years. The second part is the FDA says that if you're under 22 and you have had heart problems, do not use the sensor. Not don't believe the results, do not use it. Now, I don't know. That is all the information that Apple has made available. I do not know why. But it is a fascinating situation that I would certainly like to know more on why somebody under 22 who's had a heart attack shouldn't use the sensor. I have no idea.
This sounds a little arbitrary, like if they're just turned 23, then they can start using it.
Right? But, the government's good with those types of things, right? If you're a day away from 21, alcohol is a terrible idea, but if you're 21, it's fine. Cigarettes at 8, there's all kinds of weird age numbers when it comes to that kind of stuff. I don't know. Maybe there's a thing there's a thing that your doctor says you're in that range where it's a bad idea, don't use it. Who knows? Maybe I don't know. That's all the information I have. I have no idea what it is. I would like to find out more, and I'm going to continue searching. On the other hand, one of the things that they said that also caused a stir online was about the 120 hertz refresh rate on the screen of the iPhone XS. It does not mean what it sounds like. It sounded like Apple said, "Hey, look, we've caught up with the Razr phone, and photographers and videographers and editors and gamers are going to love this device." No, it's actually got a 60 hertz refresh on the screen, just like past models have. The 120 hertz refresh is on the touch sensor, which is also not a change from past models. So the excitement around that feature didn't really exist, which is a shame. I would have, that's a feature I would have gotten excited about.
So I was just going to say, there's an article in Tech Radar about how 98% of the there was a 98% effectiveness in a Stanford study about the iPhone watch for detecting AFib. So
yeah,
there's some evidence, and
a 99% effective in determining not, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that study is the beginning of Apple's very long road toward getting the device FDA approved as opposed to the de novo classification, because they do want to get it FDA approved. It is their goal, but there's a lot of clinical trial stuff that has to happen, and that one was the first of, I think, 3 that they have to go through. It'll likely be a year or more before they're actual FDA approved. So anyway, so there's that. There's the 120 hertz screen. Both of those were a little misleading and definitely disappointing, especially the 120 hertz refresh on the screen. I would have loved that, but obviously it is what it is. Also, it's important to note that with the discontinuation of the 6 series phones that were still left over from the past at the end of their price tier, it means that there are no more Apple phones, no more iPhones available that have a headphone jack, and the new phones will not ship with the adapter anymore. So if you want to use headphones with an iPhone going forward, you're going to have to buy the adapter yourself. Also, I thought it was interesting that there was absolutely no mention of AirPower at the press conference. Do you think they've discontinued that? Like, do you think that they've just abandoned their Qi charger? Because they announced it last year at the iPhone event, and then that was the end of it. We're now a year out from announcement. Usually when they announce something, it's available for pre-order like 3 days later.
Yep, I guess they've given up on it.
Okay.
And they don't want to say it.
It's the only explanation that I have is that they gave up on it. Which is, I mean, it makes sense because, when it comes to Apple's whole kind of pricing model and business model is around not using standards for their products and especially their accessories. So, a Qi charger, it was going to be pretty difficult for them to be able to do anything special with a Qi charger, I feel. I was surprised even that they had announced that they were going to make a Qi charger with, the way their business is. But looks dead.
Well, that's fine. You can get a Qi charger elsewhere.
Indeed, from hundreds of places, including Tesla.
Right, exactly. So, no big deal.
Yeah, once something like that is available from Tesla, it's that everybody is doing it. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you are building a new PC or upgrading an existing one, trying to get extra life out of a laptop that you already have, Newegg is the place to go. You can get power supplies and motherboards and processors and video cards and all the things that you need to make a new computer go or upgrade an existing. But there are also other things available from them as well, and they do daily deals. And to find out what today's daily deals are, and to find out what other products are available, you can go to pilchpoint.live/Newegg. So, Avram just reached off the screen, and normally when Avram reaches off the screen before the Pilch Point, it means he has something to show us.
I do.
Yay!
So here is the latest Canno Computer Kit. It is called the Kano Computer Kit Touch. So I really like this. But first of all, let me tell people what it is. So this is a computer made for kids to learn about computers, and you build it yourself. So, and it's really, the nice thing about this is there's a lot of tech out there for kids for kids to teach them about programming and teach them about computers. And most of it kind of assumes that the parents are kind of at a low level. Like, listen, just hand this to your kid. We don't assume that the parents are very tech savvy. Your kid will learn something. This is a great project for parents who, like me, really are excited about like showing their kids like the inside of a computer. Like, how does this work? Let me tell you about how it works, and let me tell you some things that are like a little bit off the beaten path. So this computer here, it has, and by the way, there, those who've been following our show for a while may know that I reviewed the Computer Kit Complete from Kano, which is very similar to this, but this adds a touchscreen to it. What it does, so first of all, if you see the interface here, it's really made to be friendly for kids, but this is a version of Linux, and on the inside, this is a Raspberry Pi 3B. In fact, if I flip around the back here, you're going to see that the batteries hang a little loose here, but that's because I just got to pop it in a little. This is the computer we built. It took us maybe half an hour to build it. The instructions are super, super easy, but you can see here that there's a I'll flip it over. It's a little easier to see this way. There's a Raspberry Pi over here connected to the power button. There is a battery that is powering it. There is a video and touch board, which is, connected to the screen. There's USB ports over here that it connects to. There's there's a wireless keyboard, which it comes with, which I have over here. Now, granted, for kids, this is a nice size. For adults, it's a little cramped.
Sure.
But the good news is this is a standard wireless USB keyboard. So if you want to attach a different keyboard or mouse, you can do it. No problem. It's got USB ports. No biggie. So what's cool about the operating system... Hold on here. Why is it asking me for Wi-Fi? Okay. What's cool about the operating system here is it's got a lot of, look, I tapped the story mode, which is what I wanted to show you.
Perfect.
So it's got a lot of apps on it, and I love one of the ones I love the best here is the story mode. And the way story mode works is the graphics on it remind me a little bit of like Ultima, if you ever played that, or the original old one. You walk around and talk to other characters, right? And one thing I will say for this touch version of it is that it's not everything, not all the apps on this are touch friendly yet. So for some of them like this one, you need to use the keyboard. And what you do is you walk around and it has different challenges for you, like having you build a Pong game, and you talk to other characters, and all the spots on the map are things like SD card village, SD card beach, and like HDMI village, HDMI forest, or whatever. Nice. And they're all teaching you about different things inside the computer. So I think that's really cool.
I love that.
So like if you look at the map here in it, now that's just the story mode. Now we'll go back to the home screen here, the dashboard. They obviously have programming tutorials in here. Now, they use their own Kano code stuff, so it's not a language that kids would know, although this is a Linux computer, so you could theoretically, I don't know why it's not connected to the internet right now. Hold on a sec. You could theoretically say, you could theoretically, run, this has Scratch on it if you want to use that, or install any programming IDE that you want, and it'll work as long as there's a Linux version of it. But the Kano code thing is kind of neat. It's a block-based coding language that is easy to sort of drag around. There's Hack Minecraft, my son's favorite. It is a version of Minecraft that's really just for building things in Minecraft, and you code them. So there's code in it also. You drag code blocks around in it. So again, it's using the kind of lure of Minecraft to get you to to get you to, learn some coding concepts. Let's see if I can show one of them here. So, like here's like the first, and everything here is gamified. You unlock different levels and harder code as you go along.
Gotcha.
So like, it'll tell you, this is unfortunate. For some reason I think I grabbed the wrong keyboard, hence it's not working. I have solved the old one around here, and the old one also has the same orange keyboard. So I can't tell which 2.4 gigahertz keyboard was in here. What I have in here with me, but so it has this. It also has something really cool in it called. It also has a text adventure game about the command prompt that you.
What?
Yeah. So if you ever played Zork, or any of those like adventure, like any of those really old school text adventure games.
Yeah.
This is, I think it's called Command Quest. Here, I think it's called, what's it called? And it actually like steps you through this adventure where you are, where it's called Terminal Quest. Sorry, where you're learning terminal commands, like how to type things at the terminal. So this is really like, this is hardcore geek stuff. It's not just like, hey, this is a computer and you can use a mouse and you can move around, and this is like it takes its stuff really seriously. Now, because they've just come out with it this past Thursday, I think that there's not as much touch optimization in the software as there will be. So you can drag the blocks around with touch, and you can do some other things with touch. But some of the apps, like the adventure, the story mode, you still have to use the keyboard. Certainly, there's no on-screen keyboard either. So you have to, if you have to type something, you've got to use the physical keyboard for now. And they are going to have some coding challenges, because all the programming stuff is challenges that you advance through to unlock more stuff. Some of the challenges are going to have, but they didn't at the time I tested this anyway, have ones that actually like had you program things just to tell when you're touching the screen. But I know that's coming. So I really, and another app that is touch friendly that my son absolutely loved, although it's not an original Kano app, because there are a lot of apps on it that are just standard Linux apps. There's the Chrome Music Studio, where you can actually like make music by like tapping like a line chart, and it plays the notes. And there's Tux Paint, which is a paint program, and you can draw with it. So this, so like the non-touch version of this is a lot of fun. It's a great learning experience, and it's extensible because once you get through all the lessons, which will take you a really long time because there's a lot of programming challenges, but it lets you if you get bored of those, this is a Raspberry Pi computer. So first of all, there's an app store, and you can install like pretty much any Linux app that you want. Including, for example, for other things that you want kids to learn about, like you could have them install the Arduino IDE and have them make Arduino projects with this. Why not? Sure. I mean, that's not like a heavily advertised feature of it, but you could. And there are other things, expansion things you can get for it. There's a motion sensor that you can program. My son really loves the motion sensor. That's another $30 part. There's the Pixel Kit, which is something that's like an LED board that lights up, and you can program that. And coming soon, there's going to be the Harry Potter wand kit, which you get like a wand that you can point at the screen and program to do things. Now those kits, like the wand kit and the sensor, also will work with Windows or Mac, so you don't have to have the Canno Computer Kit to use them.
Gotcha.
All of the programming challenges filter through their website, Canno World, and so you could use Canno World even if you don't have this computer. But this computer is, it's a lot of fun. Now, if you're looking to save money, the non-touch version of it has really dropped in price and is now just $179 when that was normally $250. This one is starting at $279. But when we tried the non-touch one, my son and I, his first reaction was to touch the screen because kids expect everything to be a touch screen. So I think it makes sense, if you can, to spend the extra money, get the touch version of this. But it's just great fun and great way of like introducing your kid to the concept of building a computer. The instructions, everything about it is just really well written and cute, and it has like a little character that like tells you about the different parts in the computer as you're putting them in. Like, this is your computer's brain, and it shows you the Raspberry Pi. It has this many transistors. This is the battery. This is the so it's not a Windows PC, obviously. It's not gonna, you're not teaching your kid about putting in a motherboard and putting in a CPU and sticking RAM in it. Like, that's a different thing for an older kid. But this is, my son is 6. We actually used the older version of this when he was 5, and he got it and was able to play with it a lot on his own. So I really, really, highly recommend the Canno Computer Kit Touch, and if you want to save a little money, the Computer Kit Complete that has no touch, because those are just a great fun for the parent, for like parents who are really enthusiastic about technology and want to really share that with their children. This doesn't dumb things down. It explains things in a way a child will understand, but it also has things like Terminal Quest, which is teaching you about the command prompt.
I'm not gonna lie, I love the Terminal Quest. I've been on their website while you've been talking. I've been looking at Terminal Quest. There's one aspect of their site that I think is a bit of a concern, but for the most part, I really I like this thing. It's such a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, so they have other products. The kit is one, and then of course the Computer Kit and Computer Kit Touch are one. There's also a Computer Kit not complete that doesn't come with a screen, but I really wouldn't recommend that because there's no screen and no battery, so you'd have to hook it up to a TV. And that one's a lot cheaper, but you have to hook it up to your TV. You can't carry it around. This gets about 3 hours of battery life, and it charges over micro USB. So my son is able to carry it, around the house and use it where he wants. I mean, it would be even better if it were clamshell design like the laptop. But with a wireless keyboard, which you can kind of put in a compartment on the back, it's pretty easy to carry around.
Very cool. And being as it is a Raspberry Pi, and getting the opportunity to see the back of it just then, you could go grab a bigger battery and put it inside.
No. I mean, you could do. I mean, I don't know. They're actually, the way things fit inside though is actually pretty like neat and tidy.
Okay.
There's snaps where you snap things in, although the battery seems to keep coming loose when we move it around. But it's just like a little thing that you push in. So you could get another battery, but it wouldn't push in like that.
Fair enough.
It doesn't have the holes on it to do it. But look, I mean, you can use it while it's plugged in. You can plug it into a charger. It comes with one, but you could, plug it into any USB port that gives out 2.5 amps at least. And yeah, I mean, the final thing is, if after a really long time you're really bored of using the Kano operating system, this is a Raspberry Pi, so you could download a different operating system and put it on there.
Sure.
You could put Raspbian on there or something if you wanted to. So and it would probably work. I haven't tried it, but it would probably work fine with the touchscreen. There's probably some way of making it work with the touchscreen. So now, one thing to note about this Raspberry Pi, I should say, for those who are people who know about Raspberry Pi, it is a 3B, but for some reason it's custom, so it doesn't have some of the pins on it. Like, it doesn't have the camera port that Raspberry Pi 3Bs have, and it doesn't have Ethernet. because you wouldn't need it on this.
Fair enough.
Right. So if you were like just got this and you were really, your kid just didn't want to play with it anymore or something, which I can't imagine. You say, oh, I just want to use this Raspberry Pi for something else. You can, but know that you won't have an Ethernet port or the camera pins.
Got it. Obviously, you've been doing a review on this. Is it?
It's on our site.
It's already out in the wild.
It's on Tom's Hardware since Thursday. Yeah, when this was announced. So highly recommended, and certainly recommend people check out my review, which is more detailed than what I just talked about with lots of pictures. And that's it. You can find that at tomshardware.com.
Fantastic. Well, I really like the product. I like the company. This is our second time talking about them, and I like what they're doing, and I appreciate you and your son going through and learning about it.
It's suffering, but we can do it. Yeah, I mean, we really enjoy testing out this kind of stuff. So we're looking forward to the trying out the Harry Potter 1 kit when it comes out.
I bet.
The Canno company is really cool. I met those folks a bunch of times, and their philosophy really is like we want this to be like as grown up as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And yet intelligible as possible for young children. They
Sure.
really hit a really nice balance there.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you bringing that to us, and I can't wait to see the Harry Potter wand in the future. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer. All the accessories that you need to up your game on PC and on console are available from Razer. Whether you're looking to get the new Mamba wireless mouse or the new Black Widow Elite keyboard, or you want that 120 hertz refresh rate phone with the Razer phone, all of that is available, and they've got some deals running all the time. One of the ones running right now is if you buy a Kraken Pro V2, you get a free headset stand. You can also get a stand with the Man of War headset, and some pretty good deals on the Razer Blade Stealth, and of course more. And you can find all of that by going to f5live.tv/Razer. The time is almost upon us. For those who have a Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Switch Online is almost here. Nintendo is joining Microsoft and Sony in having a subscription service for online play, and it was inevitable. At some point, it was going to happen. Unlike the Xbox and the PlayStation, though, Switch Online is only going to be $20 a year, and for that $20, you'll actually get a couple of things. And the first is you'll get cloud saves, which have obviously been available on the other platforms for a little while. And one of the things that's kind of nice is if you have saved a game in your cloud save and then you just go sign in to another Nintendo Switch, maybe you're over at a friend's house and you want to pick up where you left off, no big deal. Just sign in and you're good to go. Nintendo has separated themselves from the other two a little bit in a way that is not making people happy. The Xbox cloud saves are free, and you don't have to be a Xbox Live Gold member to use, and so your saves are free in perpetuity. PlayStation, if you stop paying for PlayStation Plus, your cloud saves will stick around for 6 months before they are purged. With Switch Online, Nintendo says that if your subscription lapses, they can't promise that your stuff will be there at all. So it sounds like there's no like leeway. So make sure your credit card information is always up to date with Nintendo. Make sure, God forbid, you have a rough month, the month that your Switch Online subscription comes up due, and you have to wait a couple of days. Your cloud saves may not survive. Obviously, people aren't particularly happy about that, especially if you're already used to the way that either Microsoft or Sony works. But one of the things that, like the other two, Switch Online is going to offer, Xbox Live gives you games with gold, PlayStation Plus gives you free games as well, and Switch Online is going to do the same. It's going to give you classic NES games that have been updated for online play, which is kind of a cool concept. But there's a requirement that is also not making people particularly happy, and that is that the console has to connect to the internet at least once a week. Now, if that requirement sounds familiar, it's because it should. It was a requirement that Microsoft originally had for the Xbox One when they announced it, the final details at their last E3 before it came out. And gamers lost their minds. They were so mad that they were going to boycott Microsoft. There does not seem to be the same kind of backlash over Nintendo requiring the exact same thing. I don't know if that's because it's Nintendo or what, but nobody seems to be quite as unhappy as they were. Nobody's threatening to boycott the Nintendo Switch over it. And in reality, Nick and I said it when the Xbox One came out, and I will say it again. It is a perfectly reasonable request for maintaining license state for games, because maybe your Switch Online account has been banned for whatever reason. You no longer have the license to play the games. So of course they need to verify license state occasionally, and once a week sounds as reasonable as any other. Anyway, that's about it when it comes to the new Switch Online stuff. Do either of these things seem odd to you, Avram?
No, I mean, look, everybody's got to verify that you're still a subscriber and you're still in good standing. I mean, that's like saying, I guess, if you I don't know, download things from Amazon Prime or Netflix for offline view, or Spotify or whatever for offline viewing or listening, that they shouldn't. It should just stay there permanently. Like, obviously they've got to check that you're still a subscriber periodically. Right,
exactly. That's a great analogy. Is Netflix or Spotify? Of course they require you to connect probably weekly to maintain your subscription state, your license state on the music. Otherwise, they probably terminate it.
I mean, I haven't tested the theory, but I at some point they have to, right?
Of course they do. And weekly sounds as reasonable as anything else. So
I mean, otherwise, I mean, not that anyone's really going to do this, but like, hey, I'm just going to download all this stuff on Spotify. I'm going to close my account. Then I'm going to do something to prevent Spotify from querying my, from connecting or something.
Right.
You get to keep all this music. Use an
old phone and put it into airplane mode.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it's quite a plot to get some music, but
it is. It is definitely quite a plot.
In this day and age, I mean, if people are gonna plot to get media, they're probably gonna get it from a torrent or something instead. But
very true.
Nevertheless, they have an obligation to make sure that you're still a subscriber, and you just can't keep offline stuff permanently without it checking and calling home periodically.
Of course. And I'm not a big fan of the idea that cloud saves could potentially go away right away.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously frightening because you don't want to lose your progress.
Yeah, it's not ideal, Maybe you have a bad month the month that it comes up for renewal, and you can't swing the $20. It sucks that it sounds like there's no leeway on that. Hopefully Nintendo will change that policy soon. Fingers crossed, right? This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for B-movie oddities and Hollywood blockbusters. Like Freddy Steps Out. I don't even know what to do with that one. It's like watching a movie with your funniest friends, and the way it works is for a couple of dollars, you download the MP3, you play it along with your DVD, Netflix, Amazon, wherever you happen to have the movie, probably not in offline mode, and you laugh. There are also, from time to time, live events, and there are currently none scheduled, but the last one was really fantastic. I had a blast with it. And of course, there are short films, industry-type things, that kind of films that you used to watch in like elementary school when the teacher didn't want to teach. All of those are made fun of and made fun. And you can find out all of the films and all of the short films that are available by going to f5live.tv/rifftracks. Before we move on to the next topic, there's a really great comment in the chat room on YouTube, it looks like, from Matthew. He says, how long someone can keep content they have downloaded also depends on the agreement the distributors have with the content creators. And so in Nintendo's case, there's a lot of first-party stuff available for the NES, which means that they are the content creators, but there's also third-party stuff. So, if they offer a single third-party title, it means that the whole system, the entire rights management system, has to verify rights on everything on a particular basis. So that's a great way of explaining.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, okay. So, internet news. We have talked about this a little bit when it was just a theory, and now our theory is getting closer to reality. The European Parliament has passed their new sweeping copyright bill that is frightening to a lot of online players because it changes primarily, it does a lot of things. But the big thing that is a concern for a lot of people is the fact that it is literally the exact opposite of the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DMCA, here in the United States. That law says that online platforms are not legally responsible for the content uploaded by users so long as the platform responds to copyright violation notices within a timely manner. In the EU, if this thing goes through the rest of its process, if you, as a person, record content off of television and then upload it to YouTube, YouTube is legally liable for your act, which is crazy.
Yes. Well, so I get how someone who doesn't understand the internet, which there's no excuse for in 2018, there was an excuse in 1998. But every time we see things that show a clear hostility toward the internet in the last few years, there's nobody out there who doesn't understand how the internet works now. Nobody. Not even really, really old people. Everybody understands how the internet works now. So there's no excuse for people saying, well, they're proposing these draconian laws because they think that the internet doesn't work this way. They don't understand it. They understand.
They absolutely do.
But I could see how someone who didn't understand, maybe they've been, I don't know, in a coma for 20 years or something, would say like, well, wait a second, YouTube and other user UGC platforms are, full of copyright violations, and this takedown business isn't really solving the problem. Like, there's a safe harbor for them, which is what the Digital Millennium Copyright Act was meant to do. Like, listen, you can run a user-generated content site, but you have to be responsive to to takedown requests.
Absolutely.
But now, how will they manage? So what you're saying is, if you're liable for anything that your users do, well, you need to put up like a perfect like upload checker or something, which Google might be able to come close because Google is really good with AI.
Sure.
And they're Google, and if they screw up a little bit, they can probably afford to get sued.
Right. They've got the money for the fines for a little while they deal with it.
Right. So, YouTube will be okay because YouTube is a big enough concern, and
Facebook will be okay because for the same reasons, Facebook's good with AI and they've got enough money to pay off fines while they try to perfect the technology.
And they can't afford not to support user-generated content because that's their whole model.
Right.
But I could see this having a very frightening effect on smaller businesses and new businesses.
Absolutely. Whatever the thing is that inevitably replaces Facebook can't be born with laws like this. Facebook wouldn't exist today if the DMCA was this.
I mean, if you're running a business, the number one thing you don't want is a lawsuit. Like, you don't want the unpredictability. I mean, lawyers are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Right.
And even more importantly, you don't want governmental fines.
Right.
You don't want to get in hot water with the government of the countries that you're doing business in. That's even worse. Right.
So, and this could also lead to, I mean, of course, we fear the same thing with net neutrality laws. This could, or lack of net neutrality laws, I should say. This could also lead to companies deciding not to have their website appear in Europe. Like, maybe I want to start a website here that had, like, let's take this to another, like, because people are thinking, well, there may be some people listening to this is like, okay, but who's really going to compete with YouTube and Facebook? Come on, you're going to start the next Facebook in your basement? Maybe, who knows? That would be cool. But
yes, Facebook did it to MySpace. MySpace did it to High Five.
Right. So first of all, yes, but second of all, let me put this from a different perspective. What if you just want to have a community site that has forums on it?
Yep.
What if you are running an e-commerce site and you want to have user reviews on it, like Amazon and Newegg and so many others have? Well, it might seem a little crazy, like, well, wait a second, we're not talking about, people aren't going to post episodes of Game of Thrones in the in the user reviews on Newegg. But wait a second, they didn't say it had to be video, right?
Right, correct.
So even if you have a text-only forum, and by the way, let me put this a different way. If I'm your competitor and I want to hurt you, I could do this on purpose.
Yes.
Right?
If it's a text-only forum, go copy and paste copyrighted works into the forum and then inform the copyright holder of that text that it's happening.
Right, exactly. So what if I just take, like, it doesn't even have to be something a real user would really want to do.
Nope.
What if I take, like, the text of a novel that's copyrighted and I paste it into a forum post?
Yep.
Completely on a completely irrelevant place.
Yes.
But it's a copyright violation.
Yes,
right?
it is.
And if I'm trying to hurt this other business, now I can get them because I can get them on copyright violations for stuff they didn't even know was there yet.
Uh-huh. And was not even actually posted except specifically to cause this trouble.
Right, exactly. So,
because when you create rules like this, you create a game, and when you create a game, people get good at playing it.
right, exactly. So this is very frightening.
Yes.
And you didn't even mention the link tax, which I think is even more frightening.
I totally agree.
So the link tax means, now here's what I don't understand. You don't have to pay. So if you link to a piece of content, you have to pay the content provider, but only, I think there's some exception here where if it's only a link and no text, then you don't have to do it.
Oh,
that's what I was reading.
That could be.
That it's like if you link and you have some type of description, but it's not clear. It says you can use a word or a few words or something like that.
Okay.
So,
but you almost certainly can't pull a preview image out of it.
Right. So it sounds like some of the things that a lot of search engines do, like pulling preview images, caching.
Oh,
I would assume that caching stuff is probably
almost certainly
falls into this.
Which means that a search engine literally couldn't exist because they couldn't actually index the content to make it searchable.
I don't know about that, because I think if the cached version of the page that they need to index exists, but is not visible,
isn't displayed,
isn't available to the public.
Okay.
I don't know that would be an issue, right? I think the fact that you can go and find cached versions of pages on Google, which by the way, as someone who publishes on the internet, I don't like that. I would like them to stop having cached versions of web pages.
Fair enough.
Because if you change something on your site, or you have something you regret, you accidentally published, they're busting you, and like that's kind of unfair, and they are basically copying your work. So
yeah, true.
I'm not a huge fan of the cached pages myself, but people want to be in the search engines, right? Like they want to, and they want to be linked to, right? That's the point of the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. A great example of this is these link taxes currently exist in 2 European nations already, Spain and Germany. And when they were implemented in both of those countries, Google shut down its news service in both of those countries. And now the publishers in those countries have seen massive declines in page views because nobody can find their stuff.
Yeah, right. I mean, you need to search on. It's a sad reality that to make it in. I think the only sites that maybe don't need to be in Google are Facebook and Twitter.
Right.
Because nothing on Facebook is indexed.
Right.
And people will go directly to Twitter and go directly to Facebook, but a lot of things people don't go directly to. So, you need to be on. If you're a news site, let me tell you from experience, you really want the search referrals, and you really want links from other sites. We kill for other people to link to us. So, now, if there's a situation where people are abusing it in a way, and by abusing it, I don't mean linking to us too much. Like, please link as much as possible, 100 times a page. I beg you. But if there's something where people are like basically taking a lot of the content of your story, But I think you don't need a new law to deal with that. That's called copyright infringement, and we have laws for that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Matthew makes an interesting comment in the chat on YouTube. He says, "I wonder how CDNs may be impacted by this."
Well, I mean,
there's always a possibility because when laws like this happen, the implementation is not necessarily the way the way they're written, and weird things tend to come out of this.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a danger to anything that's caching and delivering content, but you want the CDM to have your content. So, I mean, presumably you would have to go after them, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, but you want the publishers want Google News to have links to their thing, and yet here we are. So,
well, yeah, I mean, well, that's the other, but the thing is, first of all, now Google could change their business model and make it a purely opt-in model, right? Like people are dying to get into Google News, but you don't actually have to, it's not an opt-in. I mean, you can try to sign up and get into it, and you do things to actually try to get into it. But I think they will pick up sites that are not necessarily volunteered. So, I mean, what Google could do, or somebody like Google could do, I think, but I don't know how the law would view this, is maybe there's a contract you can sign up, like I give you permission.
Yeah, fair enough.
If you want to be in Google News, you got to give us permission to scrape your pictures and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. It'll definitely be interesting to see what happens here. The good news is that the fight is not over. This is just one of several steps in the possibility of this becoming law. The Parliament has approved it, but it still has to go to a committee that includes the Parliament, which is fascinating, but also has members from the Council of the European Union and the European Commission. And from there, if that whole big group approves it again, it still has to be voted on and approved by the 28 individual member countries of the European Union. So that's where we are.
Let's hope the bureaucracy stops it. Make no mistake, right? There is a contingency of powerful interests all around the world, in the United States and in Europe and elsewhere, that really don't like the openness of the internet. They don't.
Yeah, for sure.
They want to take us back to a time before the World Wide Web, and to a time where the means of publication were tightly controlled by whoever had the money to do the distribution. So they want to take us back to, it's like getting rid of net neutrality puts us, in danger of a time when, hey, the cable providers decide what channels you can see, and now, your internet provider could decide what websites you can see. And the European Parliament is in a way trying to take us back to an era of newspapers, printed newspapers being where you get your information, or something. I mean, not that it's going to happen,
right?
Because print is dead, but they're kind of looking in nostalgia at an era where, like, the people just went to the publisher. That's it. You went to reputable publishers. You didn't have, an engine like Google to try and drive people to maybe publishers that they'd never seen. So, that's obviously living in the past, but these sorts of laws could take people back to the past. I mean, what would have happened if British Telecom had won that ridiculous copyright patent trolling thing a few years ago, where they claimed that the idea of linking belonged to them?
Oh my God, I had forgotten about that craziness.
I mean, but that's what I think of when I think of this. Like,
yeah, for sure.
British Telecom thought that the idea of linking belonged to them, and therefore they could potentially sue people for or charge a licensing for every time you linked to something. So, wait a second, that's the entire internet. And the concept of linking, because they weren't suing to say they invented HTML and the ahref tag. Like, they're saying that they invented the concept of linking. But the concept of linking goes back to, like, the beginning of human civilization. It said, if someone asked you, like, hey, where's the, if you're a cave person and someone asked you, like, where's the water source, and you said, oh, it's over that hill. That's linking.
Mm-hmm.
That's telling somebody
for
about
sure.
a resource that's somewhere else.
Absolutely.
It's linking. So, anyway, I digress, but we hope, we hope, I'm going to go on record saying I hope this doesn't pass, because it's going to be bad news for a lot of businesses around the world.
Yeah, for everybody. There's no good that comes of it. This week's DRM not included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You know you get free shipping, sometimes same day, but what you may not know is some of the cool other things that you get included in your Prime subscription, like Amazon Prime Music, which gives you several million tracks that you can stream for free. Prime Video with TV and movies and documentaries and all kinds of original and licensed content available. And then, of course, my new favorite feature, Twitch Prime, which gives you one free Twitch subscription per month, which, if you would like, you can use to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live. But you also get free games, just like Xbox Live or PlayStation Plus or Switch Online. You get free games every month, and once they are yours, which is pretty fantastic. There are other features as well. We've got a list of some of our favorites. And if you're not already a subscriber, we've also got a free 30-day trial for you to find out if Prime is for you. And you can get all of that by going to f5live.tv/prime. I think we're all in agreement. That Netflix original content, production-wise, is high quality, and it doesn't seem to matter what it is, whether you're watching a comedy like Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, or something scary like Stranger Things, or you're watching the stand-ups, some of their stand-up comedy. The production quality is all so high. It may not be a show or thing for you, but the production quality is all very high.
Yes, definitely, no question.
And Netflix is very proud of that. And as they commit to more and more original content, Netflix wants to make sure that the quality stays high. And to do that, they announced this week that they have put together a certification program for hardware and software and things for producers. In that certification program, they've already got partners like Adobe and Blackmagic Design, Canon, Red, the big guys. And they want to expand it. They want to bring audio production and dubbing, maybe even lighting. They want to bring all of that in. And their intention is, if you're a new producer who has been hired to do a Netflix original series or movie or whatever, they want to make sure that you know what equipment Netflix likes. Now, it's very important to note that they said that it is not a requirement. They are not trying to dictate what equipment you use. Equipment selection is a very personal thing for content producers. And so they're not dictating what things you need to use for your production. But if you're thinking, well, you know what, it's time to go get some cameras, I wonder which ones are best, Netflix will help you by telling you the ones that they've had good luck with in the past. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any. I mean, obviously it's good, but I guess the question is, first of all, I haven't had this up till now, so it seems like they've been doing fine without it. Second of all, does HBO have a certification program for all the production companies that work for it?
It's not a public program, but they do have like equipment partners.
And does, like, I mean, because it's not like my understanding of, and I don't know maybe enough about TV production, as much as about TV production as I should, but there are a variety of different studios that produce content for every channel. It's not like every channel runs all of its own studios.
Absolutely. And
So-
and Netflix doesn't run its own studios. It's all almost entirely contracted out.
But there definitely are like even amongst companies like ABC and NB broadcast networks, I think a lot of them have their own studios, but they're not only getting stuff from their own studio.
Absolutely. And they don't exclusively produce for their own networks. ABC Studios produces stuff for other networks.
Right. So it's a very, they compete a lot. So
Yes.
I mean, do all of those have some type of certification program? Because
No.
I mean, honestly, when I watch most, I'm not surprised that Netflix stuff looks good because I expect, high budget, high quality stuff to look good.
Sure.
Like, so I guess my question is like, aren't they vetting the studios that are? I mean, I guess it's interesting that they're going to do this, but are they trying to solve a real problem? Because they haven't had this up till now, and this stuff looks good.
Well,
and if you go to other other content, other networks and content providers, they don't have programs like this, or if they do, they don't have a public one.
right.
It seems to be working out okay for them.
My guess is the commitment that they've made to expand their original programming over the next, what is it, it's 2018, so over the next 4 years, is going to require them to bring in some pretty small indie producers. And I think they're trying to prepare for that. They're going to be working with producers who have never done something big budget before. This might be their first big budget program, or maybe it's not a big budget. Maybe they're doing, maybe part of their program is to bring in indie films, but they want to make sure that even the indie films still have a quality feel, and they're not like trying to shoot them on a $200 Canon consumer camera, but instead, they should be shot on a Red. Not necessarily, because that's like a $50,000 camera, but yeah, I think you know what I mean.
Yes, they want to make sure it's not filmed with someone's phone.
Exactly.
Now, I mean,
although there was that movie that was just in theaters nationwide that was shot on an iPhone 7, but yeah, I understand.
Wait, which one was that?
I don't remember.
But maybe that wouldn't be good enough for Netflix.
Maybe.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's good. I hope that they're not so desperate for content that they're going to bring in stuff that's not. On the other hand, I wouldn't say everything on Netflix is fantastic. Most of the original content is really well made, though. I mean, it really is. But sometimes they'll spend a lot of money on something. It'll be very polished looking, but the plot will not be.
It's still a polished turd. Yeah.
The best. I mean, I enjoyed it more than I should, but see that Will Smith Bright movie, for example.
Haven't seen it.
I mean, it's not that it's terrible, but like they spent like $200 million, something. Like I think they spent over $100 million on that thing. I think
that's a lot of money.
Probably 90% of that went straight to Will Smith.
Right.
So
yeah.
So maybe spend it on the story instead of just one actor. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But who knows? But yeah, I mean, good for them. I mean, obviously, by putting the spec out there to the public, they're also going to, I guess, raise the quality in general.
And that's what I was thinking. That's what I was hoping for. Like, if I were not producing for Netflix and I was going to go out and buy equipment to do maybe an indie film, the idea that Netflix has said this equipment is good enough for us might actually, that might be what I go look for.
Yeah, it also would suggest that, if you're doing another project that someday may be licensed to somebody like Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
That you want to make sure that you have the good stuff. So, I think it's the impact on sort of small time, aspiring, new, low budget, whatever, independent filmmakers could be a good one. I would just hope that when they're going out there and they're creating the 7th season of Voltron or whatever, that they don't need to tell the studio to use decent equipment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Just as a note, Steven Soderbergh, his film Unsane, shot entirely on the iPhone 7, and it did not make the iPhone 7 appear to be a great production equipment.
Yes, I'm going to assume that that if somebody wanted to make a found footage movie, they might have some, I don't know, issues.
Like if we were to redo the Blair Witch Project today, you could film that on an iPhone and be good to go.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, that is our show. For those of you who joined us live, which I've noted there have been several talking in the chat room. Matthew, Elijah, thank you for joining us in the chat room and commenting throughout the show.
I really appreciate it, especially given that we started late, which was my fault, and then we had some issues. So thank you.
And then had technical issues in the middle. So definitely thank you to those of you who stuck around through the weirdness that was tonight. Obviously, the office is going to be having another visit from our internet provider. Not what I was hoping for. Anyway, so thank you to those of you who joined us live. You can do that on Sunday nights at around 9 p.m. by going to f5live.tv/join us. If you're not able to join us live, that is okay. PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe will show you all of our shows, including F5 Live and the Pilch Point, special events, first looks, and all of the rest as well. And so I guess with that, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Avram.
And we will see you guys back next week. Ciao.